I was sober for about a year, and my mother was in one hospital, psychotic, tied to a bed. My grandmother fell, and her feet were touching her back when she fell. She was in Taylor Hospital. I was going back and forth from both, and I got fired from my telemarketing job because I was missing too much time. And that voice of, you're an idiot for thinking that you could do different. Go back. What are you, schmuck? Like, what are you doing this for? Was screaming. And I leaned into prayer. I leaned into my support. And in our crises, in our greatest obstacles lie our opportunities. And my mother and grandmother started to talk again. They hadn't spoken since my dad died. I got them both back, and I ended up getting a job at a rehab. I didn't think I was good enough to do that work, but a friend said, hey, just give it a shot. You have enough clean time. And that became the next 23 years of my life. If I never hit that hard time, I never would have broken through. Buddhists call it radical acceptance. Christians call it carrying your cross. Just looking at the obstacle as the way and just taking it a minute, an hour, a day at a time, you get blessings. I got blessings that I never would have found in status quo. I never would have found in just lazy days. They were my best way makers. When I was at the rehab for 2 years, we lost 5 kids to overdose, car accidents, and suicide. And I didn't know how to cope with that. I loved the kids I worked with. I looked at them as my family at the time. I very much, counselors would say I over-identified. I loved them. And I lost 5 of them. And then they closed down our unit. So there wasn't even I can double press now. I can take this energy out on helping the next kid. And the same thing that, I just had to press into my supports, press into prayer, press into positivity. And that ended up creating a resilience in me and a passion in me that's sustainable. That could have destroyed me. And I think it could destroy anybody. The only reason it didn't is because I pressed into the things that transform suffering into meaning.
How did you get to that in that tough time to be able to understand that I got to press into this?
I think it helps a lot when it's survival. A lot of people talk about, I'm thinking of like Carl Jung and Marcus Aurelius, talk about living in your purpose, and anything other than that is a death, is a negative thing. I knew this is what, and I put it in terms of God, I knew this is what God called me to. And if I retreated from it, I don't know where I would have landed. I think it could have gotten, really toxic. And I know the things that help me survive. So it's kind of like, are you going to try to swim, or are you going to let the enemy army kill you? I guess I'll try to swim. And it's never failed me. It's always brought me to, and even though I don't like it, I don't like what happens when I lose people. I'm angry at reality. But that is how I know how to negotiate life on its own terms. Avoiding it, being resentful at it doesn't do anything but steal me from my purpose.